Hi, I'm Trixie. I'm the director of the Proteomics lab here at the NYU School of Medicine. So we are directly attached to the hospital. My background is an analytical chemist, so I started in mass spectrometry, but always from the analytical side. So my role is really to support the School of Medicine and the hospital with proteomic analysis needs. So that means our collaborators are very diverse. We have an X-ray crystallographer that wants to know everything about their protein. We also work with clinicians that want to know everything about their cells and plasma samples, and we also talk with basic scientists that want to know binding partners, cross-linking, protein-protein interactions, phosphorylation. So it's a very diverse group of interactions. Honestly, it's been a game changer. I first bought it and I thought, fixed gradients, as an analytical chemist, you always want to be able to change and be flexible. I'm like, I probably use it for this one case and good to have as a backup, but it very quickly turned into our workhorse, and now every single mass spectrometer has an Evosep unit attached. It's simply, you can analyze 1,000 clinical samples if you like, but with traditional systems that would take forever. With the Evosep, it becomes feasible. So now I can actually go to my clinical colleagues and say, give me your plasma samples, give me your 200 tissue samples for a specific study. And we can actually start answering questions on human samples and not just experimental cell line based samples. So we can really start asking bigger and different questions that we now are able to work and answer, hopefully.
So coming to this lab, prior to this lab, I never worked on any LCs. So when I came to the lab, we had the Evosep. LCs in general were very new to me. So learning the setup and the maintenance and the procedure for liquid chromatography was really easy when I was learning with the Evosep because it was really robust. It had the online desalting, so it made learning how to use an LC very easy initially, coming from no background knowledge of LC.
First of all, and that's very important, it's literally maintenance free. So it just works 24/7. Then in terms of utilization of MS time, now we are much more efficient because literally there is no carryover between the samples. So in that way, we don't have to spend too much time running blanks in between the samples, for example. Then for a sample prep, it makes life easier because in a conventional way, we typically have to offline dissolve peptides and dry them on a speed vac, resuspend, put it in a vial or on a plate, and then into the autosampler. So with this tip loading, it's basically all those steps are replaced with just you load your sample on a tip, and that's it. And maybe for, let's say, a few samples, it doesn't sound like a huge difference. But when you have like 100 to 200 samples, it makes your life really easier. And again, to emphasize that it's literally maintenance free. You just put your samples and you can forget for it for like a week and it's just running.
Well, clearly the dead time, the time versus column equilibrating, washing, and all of this has dramatically been cut short to the point that, if someone comes with 60 samples, like just 6 years ago, I'm like, oh boy. Because, you prepare yourself. Every third sample you have to rerun, then you have to change the mass specs have been great, and it's always been the HPLC up front that then system goes down, that our productivity goes down and the stress level rises. With the Evosep, I know I'm speaking for Evosep, but it really has reduced that stress level to basically zero. If you told me when I first started this lab that proteomics will be used to make patient-specific questions in the clinic, I would have been like, yeah, right. Maybe if you have an affinity assay or a very specific protein you want to measure, like a targeted assay, I would have, but of course that's where the field wanted to move. And I think we're right now at the point where the field it's actually getting there. Because whenever we want to have clinical decisions or decisions on patients, we need to monitor and measure a lot of patients. An N of 3 per group is not going to cut it, obviously. So now we can really run the 1,000 samples. If we really want to answer clinical questions, we have to be able to analyze clinical samples and large cohorts of samples. We cannot answer those questions with N of 3 patients. So we have to really have the upwards of 1,000 samples. And HPLC being usually a pain point where you cannot consistently, robustly, and fast run these. But we now have an Evosep unit really allows us to run 24/7. Well, with the Evosep, we now really can support and run 1,000 samples non-stop, uninterrupted. The Evosep alone, of course, would be one part. The mass specs also got faster. So we are now really getting to a point where we get the 10,000 proteins per sample in a very short time with an instrument, the Evosep, that is robust and reliable.
Integration, that's the thing, because mass spectrometry, we have a perfect, fast mass spectrometers. We have this DIA acquisition, which is really good. Sample prep workflows, they're all more or less developed. We have all these liquid handlers, but the problem might be that even if you have all of those pieces, sometimes it's difficult to integrate them efficiently. And again, if we emphasize on the Evosep a bit, what I like about this system is that it's really easy to integrate it in your workflow because it's vendor independent. So for example, some of the LCs, they're supposed to work with a thermo instrument. Some of them supposed to work with the Bruker instrument. When you have Evosep, you can just hook it up to the Bruker, to thermo, to any other mass specs. So it's a really good thing. That's what I think.
I would definitely recommend it mainly for the high throughput and the ease of use. It's very easy to use, it's robust, it's not going to break often. If it does break, it's easy to fix.
Yes, I would. And simple thing, because overall it will make your life easier and you will understand this in the first week, maybe in the first few days.
Absolutely. My friends in the field and say you really should get one. They have the same problems I had in the beginning, set gradients, and you have to use the tips. But honestly, I don't think about the preset gradients anymore. I just know that I can run, if someone comes with 120 samples, that is absolutely not a problem. We can run those. So we can finally answer questions that we were simply not able to answer before. Because now we can look at clinical samples in a large number and we can really see population-wise what the proteome changes in given conditions.